now we have reached to our final unit of the subject Business Intelligence, that is Unit 10, which is about BI deployment, administration and security. So let us first of all understand what is BI deployment and administration. Deployment, it refers to a process of making the application work on the target device, whether it is a test server, production environment, or a user computer, or a mobile device. So, the process of making the application work on the target device. Once you have developed a particular application, like here we are talking about the business intelligence tools, this is being developed. Now putting it onto the target device. The target device, it can be any computer system, any desktop, any laptop, any mobile device, or where you want to now finally execute this application. So deployment is where you are going to run your business intelligence software. Utilizing the business intelligence system, it is a final step before the business user they gain access to the information. The first impression the business community gets, it is when introduced to the BI front-end device. Because acceptance from the user is important. The deployment, it must be thoughtfully planned to ensure that the business intelligence system, it can perform and can deliver the result it is designed to deliver. Deployment, since now the work till here you have done, the planning of the system, the designing of the system, the development of the system, and finally you are deploying the system. You are putting your system into execution. Now once the system comes into the execution, it is a task of the user. It is now the user who are going to use your system. So this is a very, very important phase, because here this is the place from where the user, he will start interacting with the system. So this deployment, it has to be planned in a very well way, so that the business intelligence system, it can perform and it can deliver the results to the user. Now deployment is putting that thing into execution. Now talking about administration here. Business intelligence administration is a management of the organization-wide settings that control how this business intelligence works. The whole controlling thing, that is called administration. The management of various settings that are now going to control this tool that you have developed. Brought down your system into execution. Now this has to be controlled. This has to be administered in a very well way, so that this can keep running and this can keep benefiting the organization. Users that are assigned to admin roles, they configure, they monitor, and they provision the organizational resources. So users are now will be assigned the various admin roles. They are now there are certain people who are now going to monitor your tool and to provide the various resources to the people. So now it is the task of this business administration to manage, to control all the tasks that are being done using this tool. So that is the administration. Deployment is putting that tool into application, and administration is now management of that particular tool. Now discussing about the business intelligence architecture. Business intelligence architecture, it is a framework for the various technologies an organization deploy to run the business intelligence and the analytics application. The framework. Architecture is the framework for the various technologies that are required to run that application. It includes the IT system and the software tools that are used to collect, to integrate, to store and analyze the business intelligence data, and then present the information on business operation and trends to corporate executive and other business users. So architecture is a whole set of framework. The framework in which your business intelligence tool, it will be kept. How it is going to be operated. That is the architecture. framework for various technologies an organization will deploy to run this business intelligence application. The underlying BI architecture, it is a key element of the implementation of a successful business intelligence program that uses the data analysis and reporting to help the organization track the business performance, to optimize the business processes, to identify the new revenue opportunities, to improve the strategic planning, and to make more informed decisions. So that for all these purposes, we have designed our business intelligence tool to gain new opportunities, to improve our strategic planning, to make more informed decisions. So that is the whole motive of designing this business intelligence tool. So this architecture, this is a key element in the implementation of successful business intelligence program that is going to use this data analysis to perform all these functions for the organization. Now, we basically have two types of architecture here. One is a centralized architecture, another is a decentralized architecture. If we are talking about the centralized data architecture, it means the data from the various domain or from various subjects, from wherever we are receiving the data. Like we can retrieve the data from the payroll department, from the operation department, from the finance department. It is copied to one location, that is the data lake, using one storage account, and that the data from multiple domains, they are combined to create the centralized data models and the unified view. It also means centralized ownership of the data. Centralized means there is a central place, there is a main place where all this data will be accumulated, and from there the data will be retrieved by various applications for the analysis purposes. So there will be a whole set of data, there will be a central system who will be covering all this data, which is going to be further used. When we have a single domain from where all the data from multiple domains will be accumulated, so that will be known as a centralized architecture. Talking about the decentralized or the distributed architecture, decentralized distributed architecture means the data from each domain, it is not copied, but rather kept within the domain. Each domain subject has its own data lake and its own storage account, and each domain has its own data models. It means distributed ownership of data with each domain having its owner. So decentralized data or distributed data is when we have for different departments, we can have separate data lakes. We can have separate data sources for different department for usage of different applications. So when we have this type of architecture, that is known as a distributed or decentralized architecture, where there is separate data lake, there are separate data models, and each domain will receive the data, will retrieve the data from that particular domain. So that is called a decentralized data architecture. So these two, they are just opposite of each other. The one is centralized, where all the data is kept at a central place from where this data will be retrieved. And another one is a decentralized, where the data will be distributed at different places. And for the analysis, the data has to be retrieved from those particular lakes, and different data models will be used at different places. Means they may be used as required by different domains. Now, the first thing here to mention is that a decentralized solution, it is not for the smaller companies. Only for really big companies it is, that have complex data models. They help the data volumes and many data domains. See, if we have a small company, so what is better? It is better to keep the data at one centralized location. So we should design our architecture in such a way that all the data is kept at one central location from where the data can be retrieved. But when we are talking about big organization, when we are talking about MNCs, where the data is at different location, where the companies, it is operating from different regions. So there it becomes difficult. It becomes difficult to store the data at one central place. So for that purpose, we use the decentralized data. In decentralized data, what happens? We store the data at different data lakes. and as per the domain, as per the requirement, the data will be retrieved. A centralized business intelligence model, it involves storing and managing an organization's business data in a central database which is known as a data warehouse. A centralized business intelligence model, it can ensure greater data accuracy, veracity and the protection. So if the data, it is stored at one central location, which is stored at a single data warehouse, so there obviously the data accuracy, the protection of data will be increased more. Since the data is at one central location, so if we want to protect the data, if we want to put some rights on the data, that which all data should be accessed by which person, we want to talk about the data accuracy. So obviously it will be more at when we have a centralized structure. Since the data, it is gathered at one location. If it is distributed at different places, so there may be chances of duplication of data. There may be chances that the data, it becomes inconsistent from one place to another. So when we're talking about the centralized data architecture, so it will provide us more data protection. And with decentralized business intelligence, the storage and the management of the organization's business data, it is distributed among various departments or various business units. So each group, it usually funds its own business intelligence effort and it takes care of its own data requirement and run its own analytics application. So when we are talking about this decentralized business intelligence, there we have different groups. We have each group, it will usually indulge its cost into a particular domain and will retrieve the data as per his requirement, because one department he may not be wanting to see all the data. Suppose there is a member of IT team, he has nothing to do with the data of the marketing team. He has no interest in that because he does not need that. So for that, we can provide them a decentralized or the distributed architecture, that the IT related data, it will be displayed to the IT person. The product related data or the marketing data, sales data, it will be displayed to the marketing person. That is how the distributed architecture can be developed. And its advantages also, because the data will be limited for that particular center. So the retrieval of the data, the analysis of data, it becomes quicker, it becomes faster, because there will be limited data to be managed. So these are two different types of architecture which have their own advantages and disadvantages. So depending on if the organization is very big, then you can use the distributed form of architecture or the decentralized form of architecture. And when it is a small organization, we are talking about the smaller company, at that point of time we can use our this form of architecture, centralized form of data architecture. Business intelligence architecture alternative. A business intelligence architecture, it is a framework for the various technologies an organization deploys to run the business intelligence and the analytics application. So that is what the architecture is. The entire framework for the various technologies and organization it will deploy to run the business intelligence and the analytics application. Now, distributed system. It is another alternative to the business intelligence architecture. Distributed system is what? It is a collection of autonomous computer system. Autonomous means they are separate computers which can perform all the tasks by themselves. They are autonomous computers that are physically separated but are interconnected by a centralized computer network that is equipped with the distributed system software. So when we have the autonomous computers, they are all separate. They are physically separate, but they are actually connected by a centralized computer net. So the autonomous computer, they will communicate among each system by sharing their resources, by sharing their files and performing the task assigned to them. So when we want that, like the systems which are in the marketing department, they are all working as the autonomous computer. They are all working separately as per the requirement of marketing department. But we want that there should be a centralized system which controls all these departments, like which will control all the marketing systems, which will control all these systems that are being used in IT department, that are being used into the finance department. So all these have to be controlled together via some centralized computers. So that form of architecture is known as a distributed system architecture. So that is another form of architecture in which we can deploy our business intelligence tool. Now, talking about the phased and the incremental business intelligence roadmap. First of all, business intelligence roadmap. They are used by the business intelligence managers and their team to help visualize all the areas of business intelligence, including the analytics, the adoption, the data, and the training. There are various areas in which the business intelligence is working. It is working on the analysis of data, adopting all the data, mining of the data, training of the data, transformation of the data. So many tasks are being done using our business intelligence tool. So this roadmap, if we talk about, if you want to see what is the roadmap, so these roadmaps, they are used by the business intelligence managers and their teams to help visualize all these areas of the business intelligence. A roadmap, it is a visual document demonstrating the deliverables at different stages of implementing within the timeline. Like after the implementation, we have to demonstrate all the deliverables which we are receiving from different stages of our data. So for that purpose, we can design a visual document. That visual document, it will be known as a business intelligence roadmap that will demonstrate the deliverables at different stages of implementation within the timeline. That is what a roadmap is. Now we have two types of roadmap. One is a phased roadmap, another is a incremental roadmap. Phased roadmap is one which is carried out in the gradual stages. The various processes, they are divided into different steps. When we are talking about different steps, talking about the gradual stages. If we are performing different functions on our data using the business intelligence tool and we want to see the output of various stages separately, that after the transformation, what is going to be the output? After the analysis, what is going to be the output? After the mining, what is going to be the output? We want to see the phased roadmap. We want to see the roadmap or the visual document of at the gradual stages. So that form of roadmap, it is known as a phased roadmap. And talking about the incremental roadmap is when planning the implementation, it uses the same iterative approach, developing the business intelligence application and the metadata repository. So the iterative approach or the incremental rollout, it works well because it reduces the risk of exposing the potential defects in the business intelligence application to the entire organization. What we do in incremental roadmap, once we have taken the output from a particular stage, so that will be again used as the input for the another stage. So incremental, slowly we are making our data bigger and bigger. So when planning the implementation, it uses the same iterative approach, developing the business intelligence application. So the iterative approach, it works well because it reduces the risk of exposing the potential defects in the business intelligence application to the entire organization, since it is working in the form of iterative approach. In addition, it gives you the opportunity to formally demonstrate the business intelligence concepts and the business intelligence tool to the business people who were not directly involved in the business intelligence project. So these are two ways in which we can visualize the task being done, in which we can also visualize how this business intelligence application is going to be actually implemented. So when we are doing all this in different phases, we are following different stages and taking the output of all these different stages, that is known as a phased roadmap. An incremental roadmap, when we are gradually taking one stage output and we are moving to the next stage, then we iterate, then we go back and do the incremental rollout. We combine this, then we move to the next. Then we go back, we combine this, and then we move to the next. So this form of approach, it is called the incremental approach. What is the benefit this incremental approach has? That once the data is being delivered, it is not going to harm the entire tool. Since we are working on the incremental approach, if viewing this output, we receive the correct output, we can go to the next stage and we can combine that stage. Next, we can go to the next stage and we can combine that stage. So we can slowly see the output of all. So this help us in delivering a proper application or delivering the right analysis of the data.